In a shocking display of political intimidation that has sent ripples across Nigeria and the African continent, Edo State Governor Mr. Monday Okpebholo publicly threatened Peter Obi, warning the former presidential candidate never to set foot in Edo State without his expertise permission. Speaking at a political rally on July 18, 2025, Governor Okpebholo declared, his security will not be guaranteed. If anything happens to him here, he will have himself to blame. I'm not joking. This brazen threat against a Nigerian citizen exercising his constitutional right to freedom of movement represents more than just political rivalry. It signals a dangerous escalation in the systematic intimidation of opposition figures across Nigeria. The incident has drawn widespread condemnation from civil society groups, legal experts, and international observers who view it as a direct assault on Nigeria's democratic foundations. What makes this threat particularly alarming is that it follows a disturbing pattern of APC governors attempting to criminalize Peter Obi's humanitarian activities and grassroots engagement across the country. In this episode, we are going to dive deep into the constitutional crisis brewing in Nigeria, how this threat represents a broader strategy to silence opposition voices, and why this moment could define the future of democracy, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa. The political earthquake that struck Nigeria on July 18, 2025 wasn't caused by any natural disaster. It was the result of words spoken by a sitting governor that many are calling a veiled death threat. Governor Monday Okpebholo of Edo State, speaking to a crowd of supporters in Uromi, issued what can only be described as unprecedented warning to Peter Obi. There is a new sheriff in town, Okpebholo declared, his words dripping with menace. He came to Edo without telling me because his security will never be guaranteed. Whatever happens to him when he's in Edo, he will take it. The governor was referring to Peter Obi's recent visit to Benin City, where he had donated 15 million naira to the School of Nursing and St. Philomena Hospital, a purely humanitarian gesture that somehow triggered this explosive reaction. What makes this threat particularly chilling is its public nature. This wasn't a private conversation leaked to the media. It was a deliberate, calculated statement made before cameras and cheering crowds. The governor's use of phrases like new sheriff in town and he will take it left little room for misinterpretation about his intentions. Legal experts immediately recognized this as a violation of Section 41 of the Nigerian Constitution, which guarantees every citizen the right to move freely throughout Nigeria without requiring permission from any state governor. But this incident in Edo State didn't happen in isolation. It's part of a troubling pattern that reveals something far more sinister about the current state of Nigerian democracy. While Governor Okpebholo's threat was shocking in its brazenness, it wasn't the first time Peter Obi had faced such intimidation from APC governors. Just months earlier, in April 2025, Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia had issued a similar warning, effectively barring Peter Obi from visiting internally displaced persons camps in the state. Governor Alia's approach was more subtle but equally disturbing. Through his spokesperson, he declared that the government could not guarantee Obi's safety during unscheduled visits, particularly to IDP camps. The timing was telling. Obi has successfully visited neighboring Plateau State, where Governor Caleb Mutfwang welcomed him warmly. But when he attempted to extend his humanitarian mission to Benue, he was met with bureaucratic hostility. The Benue incident revealed the calculated nature of this intimidation campaign. Obi had attempted to reach Governor Alia through proper channels, but his calls were unanswered. Yet somehow, the governor's office knew his exact itinerary, details that had only been shared with security operatives. This suggests a coordinated effort to monitor and restrict Obi's movement across the country. What's particularly troubling about this incident is how they've attempted to criminalize charitable work. Both governors questioned the source of Obi's donations, with Okpebholo mockingly asking, a man who claims to have no money, where did he get 15 million naira from? This rhetoric seeks to transform philanthropy into a political crime, a dangerous precedent in any democracy. The pattern extends beyond these two states. Reports have emerged of other APC-controlled states rejecting Obi's educational donations or denying him venues for humanitarian activities, all under the guise of security concerns. At the heart of this controversy lies a fundamental constitutional question. Can any Nigerian governor restrict another citizen's movement within the country? The answer, according to Nigeria's 1999 constitution, is unequivocally no. Section 41 clearly states that every citizen of Nigeria is entitled to move freely throughout Nigeria and to reside in any part thereof. Professor Chidi Odikalu, former chairman of Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission, didn't miss words in his condemnation of Governor Okpebholo's threat. You can like or choose not to like Peter Obi, but a state governor threatening a private citizen unprovoked is a tragic pass in which Nigerian politics finds itself, Odikalu wrote. His statement highlighted a crucial point. This isn't about supporting or opposing Peter Obi, it's about protecting the constitutional rights of all Nigerians. The coalition of united political parties went further, describing Okpebholo's remark as a veiled death threat against a law-abiding citizen exercising his constitutional rights. Their statement emphasized that such behavior strikes at the heart of Nigeria's democracy, undermining the freedom of movement, expression, and association that are guaranteed by the Constitution. Legal scholars have pointed out that the only circumstances under which a citizen's movement can be restricted are clearly defined in the Constitution, primarily when someone has committed or is suspected of committing a criminal offense. Peter Obi's humanitarian activities and political engagement fall nowhere near these exceptions. This constitutional crisis extends beyond legal technicalities. It represents a dangerous erosion of the rule of law, where elected officials feel emboldened to threaten citizens who don't align with their political interests. As one civil rights activist noted, if they can threaten someone as prominent as Peter Obi, what protection do ordinary Nigerians have? Perhaps the most telling aspect of this entire controversy has been the deafening silence from Nigeria's federal government. President Bola Tinubu, who took an oath to protect the Constitution and defend the rights of all Nigerians, has remained conspicuously quiet about this threat against his political rival. This silence speaks volumes about the current administration approach to opposition politics. When governors from the ruling APC openly threaten opposition figures, the failure of federal authorities to condemn such actions sends a clear message. Political intimidation will be tolerated, if not tacitly encouraged. The Obedient Movement, Peter Obi's grassroots support network, was quick to call out this complicity. In a statement by their Director of Strategic Communications, they declared that if anything happens to Peter Obi, governors making this threat should be held accountable, given their role as chief security officers in their respective states. The movement also called on the international community to take note of these threats, recognizing that this issue has implications far beyond Nigeria's borders. Political analysts have noted that this pattern of intimidation is reminiscent of tactics used by authoritarian regimes across Africa to silence opposition voices. The use of state power to threaten political rivals, combined with federal government silence, creates an environment where democratic norms can be systematically dismantled. What makes this particularly dangerous is how it normalizes political violence. When sitting governors can publicly threaten opposition figures without consequences, it sends a signal to their supporters that such behavior is acceptable. This erosion of political norms doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that begins with exactly this kind of unchecked threats. To understand why APC governors are so threatened by Peter Obi, we need to examine his remarkable political evolution since the 2023 elections. Despite finishing third in the presidential race, Obi's influence has only grown stronger, and his strategic positioning for 2027 has clearly rattled the ruling party establishment. The most significant development has been Peter Obi's alignment with the African Democratic Congress coalition, which now includes former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and other prominent political figures. This coalition represents the most serious electoral threat to the APC since its formation, combining Obi's youth appeal and southern support base with Atiku's northern political networks. Yunusa Tanko, Director General of Obedient Movement, made the coalition's intentions crystal clear. Peter Obi will contest the 2027 presidential elections with or without the coalition ticket of the ADC. This declaration sent shockwaves through political circles because it demonstrated Obi's determination to remain on the 2027 ballot, regardless of internal coalition dynamics. The strategic brilliance of this positioning becomes evident when you consider the numbers. In 2023, Atiku and Obi combined for over 12 million votes, more than 4 million above President Tinubu's total. If this coalition can maintain unity and present a single candidate, It poses an existential threat to APC's continuous dominance. What's particularly noteworthy is how Obi has maintained his membership in the Labour Party while participating in the ADC coalition talks. This dual positioning gives him maximum flexibility and ensures he has multiple pathways to the 2027 ballot. It's a masterclass in political strategy that has clearly unnerved his opponents. The APC's response to this growing coalition has been telling. Rather than competing on policy or governance achievement, they've resorted to intimidation and threats. This controversy extends far beyond Nigeria's borders and speaks to a broader crisis facing democracy across Africa. In an era where military coups are being rebranded as corrective governance, threats against opposition figures by elected officials represent a particularly insidious form of democratic backsliding. The parallels with other African countries are striking. Across the continent, we've seen ruling parties weaponize state institutions to intimidate opposition leaders, restrict their movement, and criminalize their political activities. What's happening to Peter Obi in Nigeria fits perfectly into this continental pattern of authoritarian creep. From a Pan-African perspective, this moment is particularly significant because Nigeria has long been viewed as a beacon of democracy on the continent. When Africa's most populous nation begins exhibiting these authoritarian tendencies, it sends ripple across the entire continent. Young Africans who look to Nigeria as an example of democratic possibility are now witnessing the systematic intimidation of opposition voices. The international community have begun taking notice. Election monitoring organizations have classified Nigeria's recent elections as increasingly marred by violence and irregularities. The threats against Peter Obi are being viewed through this broader lens of democratic deterioration, with international observers warning about the implications for regional stability. What makes this particularly relevant for Pan-African consciousness is how it connects to the broader struggle against neo-colonial political structures. The very governors threatening Peter Obi represent the continuation of systems that prioritize elite interests over popular will. Exactly the kind of structure that progressive African leaders like Ibrahim Traore have been challenging. For Nigeria's youth and diaspora community, this moment represents a critical test of their commitment to democratic values versus accepting authoritarian drift. As we look towards Nigeria's 2027 elections, the implications of Governor Okpebholo's threat become even clearer. This isn't just about one governor's reckless behavior. It's about establishing a precedent for how the ruling party intends to handle opposition challenges in the coming election cycle. The response from civil society, legal experts, and international observers will be crucial in determining whether this kind of intimidation becomes normalized or faces serious consequences. Already, we are seeing calls for the governor to face legal action, with many arguing that his threat constitutes a criminal offense under Nigerian law. Peter Obi's response to this threat will also be telling. His ability to continue his humanitarian work and political engagement despite these intimidation tactics will send a powerful message about the resilience of democratic opposition in Nigeria. His strategic positioning with the ADC coalition suggests he's not backing down from the 2027 race, regardless of this threat. For Nigeria's democracy, this moment represents a crossroad. Either the country will allow its democratic norms to be systematically eroded through intimidation and threat, or it will stand firm in defense of constitutional rights and the rule of law. The choice isn't just Nigeria's, it has implications for democracy across Africa. The international community, particularly African leaders who claim to champion democratic values, cannot remain silent while elected officials openly threaten opposition figures. This is exactly the kind of authoritarian behavior that progressive movements across Africa have been fighting against. What we are witnessing isn't just a political dispute. It's a battle for the soul of Nigerian democracy and, by extension, the future of democratic governance across Africa. This is Frontline Africa. If you value truth unfiltered and power reframed from an African lens, subscribe, like, and drop your thoughts. I am Ezekiel Enejeta. See you in the next one.